We talked about challenges, opportunities, and what do I mean by gaps? From a standards point of view, what's missing? Where are the gaps in the standard? Also, what are the business gaps that exist in making all this work? Phil, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think from gaps from a business, as we work with across Texas with a lot of healthcare systems, small and large, and vendors, and we still see a lack of readiness or a capability on this too. So where we can, we'll work with a FHIR integration to do that. But often what we see is we're building on the other end, they're tweaking or building that standards, and it's with the more sophisticated ones. A lot of the cases we're back at the old HL7 version 2. So it seems to be one of the, that this has not been universally adopted yet. Of course, everything takes time. But the biggest gap that I'm seeing is that just that readiness. And can I come to you? I can come to you, Daryl, and say I want to do a FHIR connection, and we'll have it up and running in an hour. And I've done that in other cases, But others, it'll be, well, no. Can we go to a SFTP folder and drop your common delivery file? Which is fair. You have to, and us in the health information exchange business have to meet everybody where they are. But we're still seeing big holes in who can do this.
Yeah.
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah. Thomas? What kind of gaps do you see?
Yeah, I think there are some gaps in making it easy for vendors to develop and having transparency around creating applications that truly support all across multiple EHRs, as well as having a clear development timeline. And I think that's a challenge for us as an organization as we try to develop applications internally. And I'm sure it's a pain point for independent developers whose entire company depends on a certain resource being published by Cerner or Epic to be able to move forward. So if they could be more transparent in their timelines for development on specific values, I think that would have a huge impact for what we can plan for as vendors or organizations developing applications, and also understand how quickly we'll be able to move on our strategic goals.
Okay. One of the things I didn't talk too much about also was in the standards organizations, we're working on things like care plan, standards for care plans. And this is like the next level up. And we're talking about clinical practice guidelines. But a lot of these things that have kind of been around in the AI world or in the evidence-based world, but now that we have FHIR, we can build to one lower level standard. And as those things begin to come out and get standardized, I'm a little concerned with the coverage of those in the Epics and the Cerners. And the thing other thing we haven't talked about is this role of Microsoft, IBM, and Google. I think they see FHIR as a way of disrupting. I'm not sure that, have you seen anything with Google, Microsoft, or IBM where they have come to you as providers and offered you something that you can't get from Epic as a way to move you off of Epic or Cerner? Have you had any experience with that yet?
Yeah, so we've had a few vendors approach us because they know about the rate limiting factors for our application, or for the vendors to support some of the FHIR standards. And they've offered kind of like a backdoor where they'll create custom APIs for us. So some large ones, I mean, if we're going to name drop, like MuleSoft and a few other firms. And while they sound like great products, unfortunately, they've been cost prohibitive for us. So I'm glad that there are market-based solutions to address those pain points. Unfortunately, they're not affordable enough for a nonprofit healthcare system for us to move forward with that. But I would much rather see the vendors themselves be able to support applications and tighter alignment with HL7 to have better resource production and not have to go that sort of black market FHIR route, if you will. But it's nice to know that it exists if people have a large amount of cash just lying around.
And there are also startup companies that have built FHIR servers that, again, are trying to move into niche markets, are trying to be a way of of aggregating FHIR data from different sources.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, just
Yeah.
on that as well, one of the challenges in healthcare, unlike finance, where you're dealing in dollars and cents and everything's discrete data, back to your care plan, a lot of this the clinician wants is nuanced in a note, not a discrete coded element that you might use for billing. So how do you ever balance those two? And you're right, AI can play into this as well, but I think we're always going to have that challenge in healthcare, in interoperability, of sharing the nuances of information that's useful to a clinician as well as the discrete data that's useful to a computer.
Yeah, that's one of the things we need in our standards organizations. We have a few physicians, who are helpful in sort of bringing us back to earth, and having people who really understand the healthcare ecosystem. More of those people like you that are involved early in the standards process is helpful, because it keeps us from creating something that nobody wants. And that's the thing about FHIR. I think we've had healthcare standards in the past that were created by people like me who didn't understand healthcare. And going back to the 80s when HL7 first started, the early HL7 V2. And so we made a lot of progress with FHIR, I think.